Welcome to the Social Life Podcast. My name is Deanna Miller. I am the co-founder and marketing director of Stark Social Media Agency. Here with me, as always, Nathan Imhoff, creative
Howdy.
director.
How's it going?
That guy.
How's everyone doing?
I'm good.
It's a rough morning.
It's it's morning and it's like noon now.
You had to deal with the post office. That's always a bad day.
Oh, my Lanta.
Post office and the DMV.
Can I just tell you, 20 minutes of standing in a line with people who are angry about the post office at the post office.
Was everybody like, see?
I felt like I was in an episode of Seinfeld. To be perfectly honest, like there's like the tall, skinny guy that's like, "What's the matter?" You know, and then there's like the awkward like lady that clearly just like wore her jammas to pick up her mail at the post office, and she's like,
Did Newman come out?
I felt like that was that lady. That was the lady. Like she was the Newman. And she was just very like eye rolly and like, "Gah!" You know, she made like a lot of sounds under her breath that like, you know, clearly she wanted people to hear.
We just want our mail, people.
I just want my mail. But anyway, we're the Social Life Podcast. We talk about all kinds of stuff.
Websites and stuff.
Websites,
business,
social media and
business
stuff. I want to give a shout out to one of our biggest fans.
Oh.
Eddie Zapien.
Yes.
Hey there.
Hey.
Thanks for always listening and tweeting about us. You're
Yes.
awesome. We're talking about business style guides today. Business Style Guide 101. You're going to actually hear Nate talk a lot more today.
I know. This is a rare episode.
So I'm just going to sit here and sip on my coffee.
She says that. She's going to talk.
Sippity sip.
She knows.
On my
she knows
coffee.
enough to talk about it.
So basically, what is this style guide? In a nutshell,
It's a guide for your style.
it's a guide for your style. And if you don't have style, then you need a guide.
Right.
Clearly. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to guide you to your style.
You know, this sort of came up with one of the clients that we have been working with. And, you know, I see this over and over again with businesses and how they progress on, you know, guy, I'm gonna start this business, and then they're like, I now need a logo. So then they go and get a logo, and then
From Fiverr. Don't
Fiverr
do that.
or something.
Don't do it. I will smack your hand.
They go get a logo, and then they're like, oh, what do I need now? I need a website. So then they go get a website, or I need a business card. So then they go to the business card. Then they find out that like the
From
logo
Vistaprint. Don't do that either. I will slap your hand. Sorry, go on.
She's got a wooden spoon. Yeah, she means business.
And it's like splintered too. So like,
Oh wow,
I'm just joking. That's joking.
it's very descriptive, people.
Carry on.
Anyways, so yeah, so basically what happens is a lot of small businesses will piece together their imagery, their branding, everything, their style guide essentially, and they don't have a style guide.
Right. So then when you go to work with a professional and they're like, what are your colors? They're like, red.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, which red? There's like a billion reds.
Exactly.
Which red? Okay, so now I have to figure out which red that is. And then it's like, so what fonts did you use? And then essentially when
you
you're
have your
working
logo and they send you a JPEG
with a professional marketing company because you've achieved success with your business with what you've got, you don't have the pieces of the puzzle to keep going. So essentially you're starting over.
Right.
And that can be difficult and costly. And so we want to make sure that if you're starting a business or you've already got your business, that you know that you have those pieces put in place and you have a folder in your Dropbox with all your style guide stuff. So we're going to tell you what you need to make sure that your style guide is solid.
Yeah, nothing makes me happier when somebody hands me a style guide and says, hey, I need to do X, X, and X.
Well, that's like we just started working with a client a couple weeks ago. And
Schlick art.
No.
No?
No,
Oh,
Nook Real Estate, whom I absolutely adore.
Oh.
Big shout outs to them. Download their app. It's amazing. I love it. But no, I started working with them and I literally got a folder that said style guide. And when I clicked on it, it was all their logos in every single color. It was the color palette, every single color. I literally did a little happy dance.
You didn't have to guess.
I didn't have to go like, hey guys, what's your orange? And then they go like, what? It's orange. It's burnt orange. I love that.
Well, a lot of people think that like, oh, I could just put it in and grab it with the eyedropper tool. The problem is if it's a JPEG or a PNG, you know, those pixels, it looks like one solid color when you put it together, but it's not. and you're only going to get that pixel that you hit. So
Totes.
it won't be exact. It won't be. So you need those things defined. So what we're going to sort of start off how to get started. This is assuming that you haven't started a business, and you're starting fresh. You haven't started a style guide, but a lot of people might have to go back and freshen up or
just evaluate what you've got.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're starting with a style guide, the first thing you want to do is define your target audience.
Well, it seems like I say that a lot. Defining your target audience. It's like that might be important.
So exactly. So you got to describe who your customers are and why you need them and why your product or service solves their problem. So if you're a froyo, what makes you different from every other froyo? Maybe you got a
Nothing
fun
to me because I'm not a froyo fan.
I know. I always use froyo.
You're just like the same. Every froyo is the same.
Well, coffee shop then.
It's all high calories. It's like smart points, like galore.
Oh yes, she's on a diet kick right now.
It's not a diet kick. It's a lifestyle change.
Lifestyle change. My bad.
Hashtag lifestyle change.
A really annoying pound lifestyle change.
Hashtag.
She gets mad at me.
Hashtag. Where's that spoon?
But you need to. So if you're selling, for instance, like Nook is a good example. Nook has when I look at real estate, most real estate agents, to me, from an outsider, always look more or less the same.
Right. They're a brokerage in a highly saturated market.
Right.
There's realtors like coming out of like eyeballs right and left in California.
But I mean, everything from their logo to their colors to everything that they've done,
their videos I just
separates them.
I can't say enough nice things about them.
So define it for them. They might be saying, "Hey, we're going to be a little bit more trendy, a little more edgy as far as real estate goes." That might have been their initial stating. I mean, I know Derek over there. He's marketing VP. He's
like my favorite person right now.
He's sharp about that.
I
stuff.
know. He's like, "Do you want to talk on Monday?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Sure. What time in the morning?" He's like, "Well, in case you're hungover from the Super Bowl, let's do afternoon." I'm like, "You're like my favorite person." Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so you need to define. So just like if you think of a business, you got to think of it as far as a person. Every person has a personality, and so does your business. And so you want to make take and make a list of adjectives, 3 to 4, to describe your brand. I think of one client that we used to have who kind of is a motorcycle guy, but he was also in real estate, and a lot of his marketing was sort of a mishmash of like. It had that grunge look. Remember what I'm talking about? Like the van? You don't remember? Okay, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you get it.
Well, I think that's the thing is that you have to think long-term with your business's personality. You have to think long-term about, you have some examples here in the notes here, are you sophisticated or quirky? Are you classic or trendy? You really want to think longevity. Like this might be niche right now, but in 5 years, is that going to make sense?
Right.
Is your logo going to stand the test of time? And are your fonts and your colors, are you copying somebody else just for the sake of, like, that looks really cool?
You got to stand out.
Because a lot of people will do that. They'll say, like, I really like the way Chipotle's logo looks. Okay,
right.
But what do you like about it? Is it just because Chipotle is successful and you're hoping to...
I like burritos.
You're hoping to like, oh, if people see my logo, they're going to think success because they think Chipotle.
Correct.
But you don't want them to think, oh, their logo looks like Chipotle's logo.
Right.
You want them to say like, oh, Stark Social's really cool. That's really neat. What are they about?
Right.
Not, I really want a burrito.
Well, you take the example, we keep using Nook because they've done such a good job on their branding in a market that typically doesn't have a standout. And you put
Super
their logo,
saturated, by the way.
You put their logo, yeah, they're in Orange County. If you put them in...
Yes, but their neighborhoods encompass Palm Springs, San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles.
Let me know when the commercial's
San
done.
Francisco. There's a Nook neighborhood near you. Anyway, carry on. Sorry, I was writing copy earlier.
So I was drinking coffee while you were going
Go
through
ahead.
the thing. So yeah, if you were to take Nook's logo, their branding, and put it next to other real estate companies, they would clearly stand out because a lot of those companies would, blend in. A lot of them use orange. They used blue. Like everyone uses, or not orange. Everyone uses red in real estate.
Oh,
for some
red,
reason.
burgundy,
Right.
black, gray,
Navy.
like the dark colors. But I think they've got this like a really friendly, like
I was impressed by their color palette. It was very
color
sophisticated.
palette that is not, and I think what's cool is that their brand personality extends to all things that they do. So like every agent gets their own personalized like marketing packet,
Right.
and they provide it for them. It's not like go out and get your marketing.
Right.
So I think that that's really neat. But yeah, I think in terms of personality and style, like that's what we've done with Stark Social as well. And other brands that we've helped to build. You can look on our website, starksocial.com, to see what else we've done. But, you know, other things that we've done, you work really hard to try to create something that stands apart and is unique to what you offer. And you can be really proud of that as you move forward.
So, in a tip as far as your personality, you want to also define what you aren't. So, you want to stand out. You don't want to copy people. You don't want to be like, oh, so that. So the other thing you want to do, number 3, is define your values. So what this sort of goes back to your target audience and defining who you are, but determine your guiding principles for your company. And one company that I heard them on Proposify's podcast, Agencies Drinking Beer. They're now like Biz Talk, I think, but was Organic SEO in Solana Beach. They have.
I want to live there.
No, right, but the organic is with a K. So if you're looking for it, we'll have it in the show notes. And if you are looking for our show notes, I would go and download our app from either Droid or Apple.
Hopefully, Apple now.
Soon.
Okay.
By the time this drops, hopefully. And the show notes are in there.
Because Apple takes forever.
And added bonus, you get our shows one day early.
Ooh.
So you can go to starksocial.com/droid
Insert
or
cheers here.
starksocial.com/apple. Anyways, so yeah, you can go. They really define who they are, and that helps shape, their values and what makes them important.
Right. And if you're an entrepreneur starting a business, or if you've already started your business, this all fits in with your business plan. So if you've started to put your business plan together, your marketing plan, your style guide, all of that goes together in the business plan. This is kind of like the last leg of the journey that you need to make sure you're completing. And a lot of people skip this part of the business plan.
Right.
So when we got started, we kind of were like, yeah, let's jump in. And we did this really well.
Right.
And then the other parts of it, we kind of like winged for a while. But this is learning from experience. If you're going to start building a brand or a business, you want to make sure that you don't skip over this, because it's really, really, really important.
Well, see, I will say that most style guides are sort of living things. Like, for instance, we started doing the marketing for Schlick Art, our friends, Lindsay Schlick, very, very savvy. I mean, she gave me all the stuff, but I've been adding and refining their style guide, so it's something you can keep building on as it goes. And so ours is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming out to create the Stark Social style guide, I built it around your personality. You're sort of the throwbacks. But you're dealing in a technology age. So it was sort of we're going to do this balance where we're retro but not retro. So.
Right.
She can add more. She's just.
I could.
The post office sucked her will to live, I think.
It's
like on Wayne's World. You're sucking my will to live.
I'm still like living in that experience of like, I'm sorry, what, you want your mail? Why? Why do you want your mail? I don't know why I want my mail.
It's been a week. We haven't got our mail.
Anyway, whatever.
It's awful.
But
Post
no,
office, do better.
I think that's, I think the style guide definitely, in and of itself can be something that you continue to grow and change, and it develops. I mean, you'll see big brands going through like logo adjustments or like color palette changes that are just ever so slight. People don't notice it frequently enough, I think, because it's like, oh, it's, but Nike recently went through a bit of a logo touch up where like you'll notice that a lot of the things on their brand right now is that variation of that green, that neon green. So like you look at their new app, you look at their website, it's gone from that white over the last few years to variations of colors, and they adapt and change depending on what it is they're doing with the brand. So your style guide doesn't have to be static. It can flex with what's happening in the market.
It should flex. and that's why you want to keep it simple.
It should, but you want to not do it without help.
Right.
You're not going to like, I like that blue.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people are like, why is it blue? What happened? It was just green.
Right. Well, and I think that's why when you're initially doing this, put this stuff in a PDF. You're going to have new employees. You're going to have turnover. You're going to have a secretary that isn't a designer. And you're going to go and Evernote. Yes. This is actually
Evernote, Dropbox. Keep things in some place. Keep them someplace where you're going to be able to find them. Not on your desktop. Not on your computer's hard drive. Someplace where you're going to be able to find them.
Yes.
Because I learned that the hard way.
Okay, so that's sort of the baseline of starting to go. So what should you have in your style guide? So number one is your brand story. So what this does is it helps define the overall picture of who you are when you put it. So it introduces your brand, a simple summary that will give people insight into the heart and soul of your company, which would help them understand how to represent your brand. So like when I get a style guide from a client and it has everything laid out, it's almost a sigh of relief. Like I don't have to guess with this stuff. And I understand like, okay, this is what they're going for. So like this is how designers speak.
Right. So like when you're, so for example, a good way to do this is when you're defining your company's mission statement, this would be this.
Right.
This would be your mission, vision. This would be that. The brand story, it's just another fancy word for your mission statement. So what do you want to do? What are your goals? What is the bottom line? Like, here's who we're going to be.
Correct.
And it can be very, very simple. It doesn't have to be like a page long. It could be a sentence. It could be a few sentences. It could be a paragraph. But you definitely want it to be like your mission statement. And that will carry through onto your social. It'll carry through on your website. It'll carry through on the branding that you do. If you do flyers or videos, you want to make sure that that's something that you're always envisioning. I know a lot of companies will like put it up on the wall somewhere. Like I've been to a couple different places. Like Lance Wealth Group has it up on the wall in their office in Pasadena.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's really cool. I dig it. Make your brand story pretty.
Number two, your logo. But I wanted everyone to notice that we did a lot of prep before we got to the logo. So, I think that's important because a lot of people come in with preconceived notions like, I want us to be called this, and I like X, like bird or
X
like,
gonna give it to you. Sorry. I'm sorry. Tangent.
So you may know what color you want, like Deanna said, like, we're gonna make it blue. But do you know what your logo should look like in different environments? And that's really that's one of the most important aspects of a logo, because a lot of times when people go to Fiverr, which Deanna already said, she will hit you.
Do it. I will smack your hand.
She will hit you with a wood spoon. They're creating this logo outside of any context that it's going to be used in typically. So they're putting it on basically a white canvas and putting it on there. And we had a situation with a friend of ours who created a logo, and the middle of the logo was translucent. It was see-through. So you put it on black, it's not going to work. So you need to have those defined that you can put your logo on various colors. How's it going to look on your website? What's the sizing? So list minimum size and proper proportions. Space, if your logo requires amount of white space, and that, by the way, when we say white space, that doesn't actually mean that it has to be white. That's just basically what that means is just space around. So you don't want your logo tight. You want to have a margin around it. You should define that. You should show. You also need to show your colors. So when we talk about having a logo that is flexible, you should have a white version that should go on dark, and a dark version that goes on white, and maybe a color version. You need various versions that are acceptable for that ahead of time. So this is the sort of thing that when you go to get a logo, you can go and say, hey, look, these are the specs I need. I need one that works on white. I need one that works on black. I need one that works, that's a color thing, and and then don'ts. So when you have your secretary handling or somebody in the
I don't
company.
think they call them secretaries anymore.
Assistants?
Yeah.
Administrative assistants?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Welcome back to the
I'm old school.
1960s.
I'm old school. So, don'ts. Anyways, so when you're talking about to your administrative assistant and you want to show them what they shouldn't do with the logo as well. And so sometimes you want to make sure it's proportional. You want to make sure that it's not, tight. You would actually show examples of a style guide. And I'll put some examples in the show notes so you can see the type of things that you don't want to do and you do want to do. Anyways.
I'm going to give my 2 cents on the logo stuff when we come back after the break, because I think that probably what just happened is a lot of people went, what? So
you threw me off with the secretary thing.
We are the Social Life Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, sociallifepodcast.com. If you are going to come back and join us, if you're not totally like, what just happened?
Maybe they
grab yourself a glass of wine, a beer, have some mimosas if you're enjoying a weekend podcast listen. If you're driving, pull over.
Or go in the trunk.
Go in the trunk. You do not want a DUI, I promise you. Don't forget to find us on Twitter and Instagram at Stark Social so that you can tweet about us. And we will be back very soon. I'm Deanna Miller. That's Nathan Imhoff.
Hey.
I promise I will clarify and make sure that everything that he just talked about made sense. We're talking about style guides today on the Social Life Podcast. Okay, we'll be right back.
This is the Monkey. My parents run the best social media company around. Go to starksocial.com today.
So we decided to come back to This is the Social Life Podcast. We were talking about logos right before we went on break, and I tried to take a quick cat nap. We're talking about business style guides. We've already talked about a bunch of things: defining your target audience, creating your business personality, defining your values. So we've already talked about your brand story and or mission statement / values. Nate was telling us about, creating your logo. And for everybody who was probably a little like, that's a lot of professional information, I couldn't jot it all down. Basically, when you're designing your logo, you want to, avoid going to those crowdsourcing, like Fiverr. Just don't do it. Like,
not all logos are created equal.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, you want to make sure that you're working with somebody that you can either sit down on the phone with or conference with or meet in person so that they can absorb and understand your brand. And when you're doing something like a Fiverr, or I don't know if Odesk still exists or not, or whatever it was.
It turned into Upwork, I believe.
Okay. But there's another one out there and I can't remember what it's called. But when you're working with those types of like businesses, I guess, those individuals, a lot of times they are not local, they're overseas or they're someplace else, and they're not necessarily professional designers. They're people who are like, churning out work on a daily basis for a lot of different people. So you're not getting that personalized touch. So like I have worked in the past with people who have had like VAs and stuff from overseas put together logos for them and then vanish. So they have the logo, but they have the logo in a JPEG or a PNG. They don't have the original artwork. They don't have their colors. They don't know. Like, it's just a lot of guesswork. So you want to avoid that kind of situation where then you're going to make T-shirts or print out flyers or stickers, and you don't have the right size artwork for what you're looking to accomplish.
Correct. You're going to drive printers crazy.
So it's great that you got 5 logos for $100. But you can't do anything with them.
But
so
they also probably gave those 5 logos to everyone else.
Well, so then the challenge becomes, you have a designer who's working at the printer who's trying to make your stuff work, and then you're going to spend more money with that designer making your stuff work. And I've seen it happen, so it's a cautionary tale. But you definitely want to sit down and make sure that you're saying, here's my goals. I wanted this to be on letterhead. I want it to be on stickers. I want it to work on T-shirts. I want it to work on tank tops. I want it to work on hats. So when you're working with a designer and you're coming up with your colors and your concept, you can say, I really like Chipotle's logo. I like the colors from here. I like the colors from there. My favorite animals are lions and tigers and bears. And then you can start to, like, your designer can start to, I've seen Nate do it. He can start to come up with concepts. And then you conceptualize, like, okay, so here's the different things I think that would work for you. And the thing I want to encourage people is don't be afraid to say, I don't like that.
Right.
Because that's your logo. That's your mark. That's something that you're going to have to live with for a while.
Well, let me preface that though. When you say you don't like something, that's actually not a helpful term. You want to say what you don't like about it and what you do
I know.
like about
That,
it. I'm just
it's not
specifying.
prefacing it
I'm just
because preface comes beforehand.
Whatever.
But no, but that's what I meant. Like, you want to say, I don't like that. That's not going to work for me. I don't like the color. I don't like this. I don't like that. You want to have like actual feedback, because the thing is that I've seen people who have said, so I had a designer do a logo for me and I don't really like it. And then I feel bad because it's like, did you tell the designer that you didn't like it? Did you tell them you weren't a fan of the colors? Did you tell them? And most of the time it's no. But it's if you're developing a professional relationship with somebody who's building your style guide and helping you build your brand, you need to have a rapport with them that you're honest.
Well, one of the things you also want to do is go and define your competition. You know, pick 5, 6 of your competitors if you're in a competitive market. Take their logos, take them, put them on a page, and put your new logo. And how do you look? How do you compare? Do you stand out? Are you the same colors? Do you blend in? You know, that's sort of part of a branding exercise that you want to do. Sort of given that 101 thing going on.
That should have been on this list then.
My bad.
Just to preface it.
Preface it.
Wrong word. Anyway,
Secretary.
all right. So let's scoot through this because you have a lot of stuff, and I think there's a lot of stuff. So when you're putting your logo and your brand story together, obviously we're going to talk about colors and typography. So what is typography? Let's talk about typography first.
We're in color palettes.
No, let's talk about typography first.
Typography.
So let's talk about typography first, because I think what's really important is that personally, I end up putting together a lot of graphics for like Instagram for our clients. And if I don't know what your font family is, my head starts to hurt.
Well, you want to be smart when you pick your typography. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they just go and, pick a font at random.
Right.
But not all fonts are created equal. And that's the thing that people don't understand. If your presence is mostly digital, you don't want to go and just go into Microsoft Word or, whatever and say like, I really like that, or go on the internet and go to a font site and say like, I like this font, because if you're going to be mainly on I would choose something out of the Google font family that is universal and works in a lot of different things and is free. So that's one of the big things with typography. So your brand be dictated on whether sorry. Your brand needs to help me out here. I'm losing my mind here.
So he wrote a lot of stuff and he's trying to keep up with it. So basically what you want to make sure is that you're saying like typeface, but I think most people would understand fonts, like the font that you pick, the typography. So you want to make sure that whatever typeface, whatever font you're picking, it's going to meet your needs across multiple things.
Correct.
So
and you want to pick a family. Now, when I say the word family, so you say font family.
We are family. Sorry.
You are required to sing that song beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean, so like, let's say you picked Open Sans from Google. That means thin.
Not a big fan of that one, but go ahead.
Okay, Lotto.
No, it's fine. Whatever.
I just picked that one at random.
No,
I told you, people.
Sans serif.
It's a post
I don't
office.
like that one either.
Post office. It's your fault. So that means bold, heavy, regular. The
So there's variations.
Right.
So for example, you pick a font, there's variations to it. So I know a lot of people will say, like, I picked this font and I really like it. And I like it when it's italics and I like it when it's bolded. And that's great. But the thing is when you're selecting a font family, it has different versions to it. And
Yes.
that's something that I've learned over time, that like you can say, like, going back to Nook, they gave me their fonts. They're like, here's our fonts. And I downloaded them and I was so excited because now I have them. And I'm like, when I'm putting stuff together for their Instagram account, I know I have the right font on everything and I'm not just guessing, because that's another thing that you need to remember when you're putting your style guide together and you're working with a designer, is you want to make sure you have everything in one spot figured out. Like, this is our color scheme. These are our fonts. This is the logo in varying colors and styles. And that way I can things are interchangeable. So that's why I said, let's talk about typography and then color palette.
Got it.
Because when you're defining your brand, I think the font starts to define like where you go in terms of like the color scheme. So color scheme is really, really important because when you're working with somebody to put together a website, let's say, okay, you've done all your branding, they're going to want to make sure that when they're putting together the website, that it's the right font family and they have the right colors.
Yes.
And it's not like, this could be the orange, this might be the green. I think it kind of matches. Because that ends up making your brand look disjointed.
Right. Well, and I think like that's good what Nook did. You want to take your fonts and you definitely want to put them in a folder and have them, because, you know, if you just say, oh, like we use Helvetica, the problem is like there's like 30 different versions of Helvetica. You know, you have Helvetica New or Helvetica STD and stuff like that. Anyways. So,
Yeah. So there's that. So go design a logo. I'm just joking, guys. Don't go do it by yourselves, please.
Oh, and a good rule of thumb is pick a font family that is different from the font you used in your logo. That just helps you get more contrast in what you're doing. Anyways.
So picking, like, okay, so you said pick a font that's different from the one in your logo.
Yes.
So, but you want to pick complementary fonts.
Yes.
Your
absolutely.
fonts should complement each other.
Correct.
They should work together.
I mean,
you shouldn't have like, I can't think of font names right now. I have a bunch in my head, but like you shouldn't pick like Georgia for your logo and then go and use like Arial for all of your other stuff,
you can, but
because they don't really to me, they don't look cohesive.
I would say, so like, let's say you have a script font. Like it looks like, you know, it's a script or a brush font for your logo.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't want to overdo that font in the rest of your marketing. You might be able to use it for headlines, but, you know, don't have everything written in some fancy font. I get you like it. It looks nice, but it's also difficult to read.
But it's so pretty. I don't know how many times we've heard that, but it's so pretty. Do you know what it is? No. Not sure. Somebody sent it to me. My uncle sent it to me. He thinks it's really cool. I love your uncle.
Along with your typography, you want to define uses. So, you know, whether you're going to be right, left, centering, as far as your alignment, what's going to be okay for what your marketing is, and then spacing, kerning. You know, do you want it tighter? Do you want it open? Please, for the love of God, do not spread your font out long. You have huge spaces in between your letters.
How much do I love the word kerning now that I know what it is? I mean, seriously, like, it's not just a county, people. It's a thing. Kern County, kerning. Two different things. It's super exciting. I like it. Anyway.
I have enriched your life.
Every time we get something that people are like, hey, I had this design for me, I'm like, look at the fonts. Look at the thing. Look at how smooshed it is. Look at how spread apart it is. It's not balanced. And then he just sits there and shakes his head like in appreciation of my
work here is done.
my fit of rage over typography issues.
Okay, so color palette. Defining a brand palette will go a long ways toward creating consistency, look, and feel. Most brands choose 4 to 5 different colors and hues and tints. Okay, so this is important. So I know a lot of people I like this color, and they go and do the eyedropper tool, and that's good for a base. But you need to keep that one. That's it. And then you need to have shades and tints of that color, and you need to have complementary colors. So for print, it's CMYK. So you need to have a CMYK, the numbers. So, and then for digital, you need to have your RGB and your hex codes. Hex codes are usually for internet, but you can use RGB on web as well. And then if you're really fancy, you can get Pantone colors. Anyways, so imagery.
Okay. Talk about imagery. What kinds of things do they need to know to get started with that part of the? Because I honestly I don't even know what we.
So in the case
I look at our style guide and I don't.
Well,
you helped pick all that stuff out, but I wouldn't know how to get started with it.
Correct. So imagery, the imagery section for your style guide. In our case, we would have the, older pictures. This is what our look is going to be. You want examples. That's really all it is if what's acceptable, the imageries that you've used in the past, what your best practice is. Show examples that have performed well for your brand. Make sure you address the main ways that your company communicates, whether it's print, catalog, or Instagram accounts. So you don't want to have all the way eclectic bunch, I guess you would say, if you're defining your brand through imagery.
You want them to be complementary and work together.
Correct. I mean, create a mood board, because you're dealing with people. A lot of times, people will, the cardinal sin we always say, you can't give everybody your access to your Facebook page in your company. Mm-hmm. This comes down to that. The style guide. You want to give examples and define stuff. So.
Right. No, I think the idea of a mood board is good, but you really want to make sure that when you're working with within your company, you don't want to give too many people, too many chefs is always a bad idea. Because I've sat in on startup stuff, and I think it took 2 weeks for people to decide on the colors, and that was I worked for the company for 8 weeks, just to give you an idea of how frustrating it was. But yeah, it took 2 weeks to decide on colors, and then it was a week later we decided on fonts, and then 3 weeks later, it was a mess. So you want to make sure that when you're putting together all this stuff that you have a streamlined basis for the process.
And then finally, voice. This is probably your department. Writing samples. It doesn't always jump to mind when people think of their brand, but a solid voice is a consistent voice in a brand is important.
Yeah,
important.
You want to think about how your messaging sounds to people. You want to make sure that everything is cohesive and smartly done. And, when you get started, you want to make sure that whoever takes over with your social or with your content writing, that's why it's really important to make sure that you have all the pieces of the puzzle together. So when you're getting started putting all of these things together, the voice of the company, I think, goes back to all the way back up to the brand story. So that's defined with that. And then when you go from there, that's, when you have somebody who's taking over, you want to make sure that they understand what it is that you're looking to accomplish, with all of the blogging and things like that.
And that's sort of the problem why you can't give everybody access to your Facebook page and just say, oh, post when you think it's right.
Right. Absolutely. No, totally. And I think that that's one of the things that I always run into with new clients is that it's we've got the front desk person and then the project managers and then everybody else has access. And then it's okay, but people are posting in different directions and you don't know what's going on.
Correct.
All right, so we've been talking about Business Style Guide 101 today. In the first half, we talked about defining your audience, defining your business personality, and then putting together your values. And then we talked about a lot of things that go to the nuts and bolts of the brand. So logo design, brand story, color palette, typography, imagery, voice. There's a lot of things that go into getting your brand started and off the ground. So you want to make sure that you have a plan. I talked about when you're putting together your business plan, there's different portions to that, but you want to definitely make sure you do not skip over the marketing part of putting together your brand, because when it comes to what people see and what people interact with online, social media, website, that's really their first impression. So even if your business is running like gangbusters, it's like, yay! You want to make sure that everything is in one place and it looks good and people know who you are and what you're doing. So next time we're going to talk about calls to action. It's something that I get asked a lot in terms of advertising and marketing. So we're just going to have like a fun conversation about that. So don't miss it. Like Nate said, if you have not yet downloaded our Android app, go ahead and search Stark Social. It's there. We're looking forward to the launch of the Apple app once it gets done and it's approved and everything. Because Apple's like, we have to tell you yes or no. So we will definitely let you guys know about that. Find us on thesociallifepodcast.com. Make sure you subscribe so you get notifications. If you have the app, you get a day early. And then also don't forget to find us on Facebook, facebook.com/StarkSocial, Twitter, Instagram @StarkSocial, YouTube channel, just search Stark Social Media Agency, and we're there. I think that's it. This was an informative conversation today.
Excellent.
Very good. All right. So we will see you guys next time here on the Social Life Podcast. Audio Guru.
Okay, lady. I love you. Bye-bye.
Okay.